And welcome back for another episode of Bowtie Certified, where I follow the journeys of others through certifications and how learning has given them such great benefits in their journey. My name is Anthony Tsavelis, and I am a technical instructor in Google Cloud. And if you are looking for training for certification, feel free to reach out because that's my jam. And today I have a special guest, Augusto Rosa. Augusto, thank you for coming onto the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's long overdue, especially since you are a champion in training and being at a director level that that holds a lot of weight, especially with the people that you support, the people around you, the organization as a whole. When they see their leaders are pushing training and learning, it really makes a difference. So.
Yeah, it's honestly part of my lifelong. I'm a learner for life,
Nice.
and I continue. It's actually quite amazing. I find it fun, like to keep learning. So that is a daily. I need to learn something every day. Yeah.
That's amazing. And we're going to get right into that. But first, I wanted to tell the audience how I met you. Augusto and we kept on running into each other at every single conference and every single DevOps meetup. Augusto was there and I was there, and we'd talk on and off. And next thing you know, when I was looking for a job, I reached out to Augusto, and he was at the time he was at Show Me, and yeah, I was like, hey, I need a job, and you're like, yeah, no problem, just send out your resume. And next thing you know, Show Me shut down. And I didn't see Augusto for a while, and next thing you know, he ended up coming to the organization that I was working at, and he was my manager. And it was awesome because, like I say, that learning mindset, it held a lot of weight, and it put me in some great projects, and helped me push past my comfort zone. So that's a little bit that's a little story behind Augusto and I. But Augusto, if you're ready, let's dive in. What were
For
you
sure.
doing? What were you doing before diving into tech, and like the industry itself? And what made you decide that this was your path?
Well, for me, it was actually quite early. I'm not from Canada, so I'm originally from Angola, a country in Africa, and my brother-in-law partly owned a major IT company, and he was highly influential on my path to tech. In fact, I started working on his company at the age of 15, like doing a small electronic repairs, then setting up Windows 3.1 with floppy disks. So I've been doing this for a while. So I've always been a very curious person, and that's how I landed. But then, having moved to Canada in 2000, well, during exactly the dot-com crash. So it was like I had nothing, and I had to start from scratch. It didn't matter the experience from outside. I was young too. I was 21 or 22 when I came, so I had to just like I had to get in and learn. So I think part of me getting myself into a position that I can demonstrate my skills, but I also continue to learn what is part of my journey. For example, I was doing a job that wasn't necessarily in IT while proving that I could do IT and being promoted to the IT manager for a small company.
Wow.
At the same time, at night, I was going and doing my Microsoft MCSE like until 11 p.m. So like a full-time job, like almost full-time school, so I could get the next job. So yeah, that's how I landed in the industry, honestly, in Canada. And I like to say the other part is mix of hard work, lucky being in the right place at the right time, and just like that ability, curiosity to learn really puts me often in a place that I'm learning the next best thing, and kind of opens the doors for the next best thing as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was your strategy for breaking into the industry? Usually when people get into tech, they have some sort of strategy where they're like, yeah, I want to go work for Google, or I want to go work for this person, or I want to work my way up, and here's my strategy. What was yours?
I think it's twofold. One is, I think the need to continue to self improve and to learn. That was obviously one. Like I continue to study in any possible shape. So I essentially could say, hey, I'm certified. And this was 20 years ago.
Mhm.
It's quite different from where the industry is now.
Wow.
But the other side is, honestly, sometimes you just have to put the foot in the door. It almost any job, and show up as a technology inclined person and curious to be given the opportunity. It almost to some extent doesn't matter what is the job, if the job is in IT or not. Like you have to be patient and put the work, and at the same time you're doing something that is somewhat technology inclined. Continue to study and go pursue the opportunities. Advocate for yourself. That was my strategy essentially. Like to be like frank, when I came to Canada, my first job was a data entry clerk. Within the 24 hours, I was teaching. This was a really tiny company. I was teaching everyone that has started with me how to use the so-called database. Within so I was training the thing I trained in the same day. Within 3 months, I was the IT manager for the company. But if I had not accepted the data entry clerk job, like I wouldn't have that opportunity. Within a year, I'd moved to a national IT department in a medium-sized company,
Wow.
based on of having the job experience and having gone to school after hours to do the certification. So that was the you have to just land with your right foot and do something. Yeah.
So I guess it was a mix of you getting some, I guess you could say, some formal training with regards to certifications, and
Yeah.
a lot of freaking hard work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
But
getting out of your comfort zone to
yeah.
really take that next step.
Yeah, yeah, and that actually that mix continues to prove itself. Like, the second company I got into, because I've done the latest MCSE when Active Directory was a thing, the people there were doing .NET 4.0. I'm making myself old, but the key is that when I get into that company, I actually knew newer technologies than the people in the company, so I had an advantage. And that goes on and on. Like, you can never sleep on your knowledge. It needs to be daily, in terms of, keep reading and reinforcing with through certifications and formal studying as well. So that's quite important. Like, as I told, when I just did another certification today, even though I do not need to do a certification
Tell
for
it
my job.
that, Augusto, because I know a lot of people who are watching, they they go ahead and do this. Like they learn every day, and they're doing certifications. Tell us from your point of view as a director. You don't need this certification, but what what made you want to go and get it, and what did you get out of it?
Yeah. Well, in this specific case, I'm trying to get some sort of objective with a partner where I work with, where I'm trying to get to to be an ambassador for AWS, so a partner ambassador. So I need a minimum certain certifications, but I kind of always do them a little bit. It's two side. From a management perspective,
Mhm.
I'm trying to practice what I preach, where I do certifications, and instead of me forcing people, or like I'm like, if I'm the director, I can do the certification. It's a good thing for your career. I'm trying to lead by example. The other side is I learn. Like, honestly, there are things that you go through as you prepare yourself to the certifications that are very useful to, like, sometimes I'm advising clients or I'm doing something and I'm learning team bits. Oh, this is how it works, or there's something new. AWS, Google, Azure are releasing features at such a rapid pace that you can do. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
almost like you call it therapeutical, because you come back and, like, okay, it's your time, you're reading, it's not, for me, it's not actually stressful. It's just like, okay, let me learn something. It's my me time.
Yeah, Dixon says that in tech, if you stop learning, you start becoming irrelevant. So
Yeah.
true, so true. I went through that myself, Dixon. I stopped learning at one point, and that's when I found cloud. But if I had not moved into cloud, I would have been stuck. I would have been like, what do I do? Do I go and work for the banks that still have that older technology? Even the banks now are moving to cloud. So
Yeah. Yeah. You
so I
bet. They are big clients for sure.
yeah.
I like to say to I've been a team leader for a long time. I don't know if I ever told you this, Anthony, but I like to say worry less about your job security and worry more about your skills, because the job can go away. You're going to find the next one,
Agree.
as long as you maintain your skills.
I mean, look what happened with when COVID hit. I mean, if you don't have the skill sets to be able to have the flexibility of pivoting, then you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. That was actually a very interesting time, even for me this year, because as COVID hit and business in Canada kind of crashed a little bit, I had to lean into a lot more of different kinds of skills that were non-technical in business development and sales, for example, that I had to lean in more. And those are also another learning for me. Like, how do you help uh, churn more business and change, like, like essentially what would seem like a crashing business ecosystem. So it's quite interesting. I learned a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, Going back to first, I wanted to say hi to Alex Bielecki. Thanks for
Hey,
joining.
Alex.
And Derek, what's up? And as well to everyone else who's tuned in. Dixon, Rosa Maria, Daniel, thank you all for joining. Now, I wanted to touch back on certifications for a moment, Augusto. You said that you've taken some certifications, but how exactly has it helped you on your journey when you were like, you said you were studying for your MCSE, your Microsoft certification. How did that help you to get to where you are at now, or even
Yeah.
to build on top of what you've already had?
I think maybe it's me, but I take the learning for preparation for certifications as actual learning. I try to learn something for it, not like there's a certain part that you need to learn how to answer the questions, because these uh they do make the questions tricky almost on purpose to trick you. That's the
Yeah.
reality of the game. But I try to take it in as I'm learning something that is useful. I'm a natural curious person, so I try to learn. So that I like that learning is, then I can use it on my day to day. Like, I learn so much stuff. So I'm in a conversation and I'm doing something for work. So, oh, okay, that thing happened, and I can connect pieces together and architect solutions. A lot of my role is around architecture and in leadership, more than like doing and things. So it helped me gain enough knowledge that as I go into new challenges or new jobs, I kind of know and understand how pieces work together well. And that to me is important. As a technologist, you need to know the basis and the advanced and be able to put and understand how things work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, the more certifications that I personally go through, the more I actually learn, and then I feel it doesn't give me not just a sense of better technical view, but it also gives me a sense of satisfaction where it gives me more confidence as a human being.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's very important, especially being in tech. A lot of people in tech are introverts, and so getting that confidence to be able to talk to people has a huge benefit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I that's a pretty big aspect. If you and if you go back as a newbie, like if you starting into the industry, if you truly take it in a like what am I learning here and with some practical aspects, you putting yourself in with knowledge that you can answer interview questions that you can sustain on yourself. So it's just giving the leg up on a very competitive market. It's interesting because the market is at the same time hot and pretty much anybody can be hired, but is also competitive in its sense, as in the better jobs and
Yeah,
the best, more interesting opportunities that rely on you demonstrating knowledge. And so, even at an entry level job, I think was yesterday on the CTO group. I was looking at someone posted a resume for a university student, and you look at the university students these days. They're in great, like in first, second year university, but they have actually done coding and they've done things into their high school. So it's like amazingly impressive resumes for us. Starter. So the competition, it prompted me to go to my kid. I was saying is 14 and he's learned coding and he's trying to do wants to get into the industry. And I'm like, you really need to get yourself or you contributing to something because the competition is fierce. And this kid is
yes,
dedicated, wants to make it. And the competition is even higher because if you can get to six-figure salaries in like 2 years in the industry nowadays, almost depending what you choose.
crazy.
So yes.
Crazy. I don't know. I've been out of the game for um, probably like 6 months now. And yeah, I've been doing my own thing. So I have been keeping a good pulse on the industry. So that's always a good to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize that there is that much competition. Um, being part of the I guess part of the hiring process. What types of people do you see out there? I mean, do you see a lot of really skilled people, or do you see a lot of people starting to break into the industry and just trying to look for their first break? What types of people do you see?
You see both. There's a lot of people with diverse backgrounds, sometimes not in tech, but breaking into the industry. I think there's sometimes an advantage to that you have life experiences. But being that I work for a consulting company, like experience, we reward experience more than anything because clients are hiring us for the experience. But we do hire people getting entry, and so you see both. You see both. I think it goes back to being getting to the industry. It's important to be a life learner and continue to learn. Is important to go back and show, hey, I have the knowledge, I can certify myself. It kind of shows that you have the drive to break into the industry. Like I've been coaching someone that had like almost like 10 or 15 years of financial industry experience, like
Wow.
financial advisory, like an amazing resume, and he's trying to break into the industry. And he has done Azure certifications, AWS certifications, and and I actually passed the resume to some people, and I said, look, this person has this amazing life experience that can help any company who wants to be a product manager in product DevOps, etc. And he put himself to go learn all these things. Like, uh, it kind of shows a tremendous capability to learn, you know. uh, and that's how he broke into, like, just go do the certifications, do some technical engineering, even though that's not what he wants to do. He
Right.
necessarily doesn't want to be an engineer.
But it benefits him
It
either way.
benefits him, yeah, yeah. I think it proves it's kind of, you want to get into the industry, you need to pay your dues. You need to prove
Mhm.
your knowledge in certain ways. If you're a sysadmin and you're in a company and and the company says, "Hey, we're moving to AWS, come and learn this." Oh, and we have to do a DevOps and you have to learn Terraform. You have the benefit of being an insider and learning, etc. If you're an outsider, you need to prove in different ways.
Right. And so for somebody who is outside of the industry trying to break in, what would you recommend to them on, how they can stand out?
Yeah. Well, I think I think nowadays it's pretty hard to get into the industry if you don't learn coding. So pick a language, Go, Python, whatever it is, Java, TypeScript, learn a language. Find an open source project, contribute to it, even if it's in the documentation. Just put yourself out there, find projects, do something, set up your own website, create a product so you can show the skills. Um,
Mm.
second, I would say certify yourself. Like, do a certification. Some people try to do a lot. There's so many certifications. Pick one. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, pick the top. Could be AWS, could be GCP, could be Azure, whatever it is. Pick one. Do it. Get to know it really well, and create scenario-based projects where you actually trying to mimic what you would do in a company and demonstrate those skills so you can talk, yes, when I did this, this happened, and this is how I address. So you actually demonstrate that together with the certifications. Like, you essentially are trying to demonstrate you have a capability to learn and you're worthy the investment the company is going to put
Mm.
on you.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people that it is the projects that you work on the side that actually count. People discount it all the time, but it's actual experience. You've done stuff, you've learned something, and it's so great to showcase that.
Yeah, and that's actually even more important for early wanting to get into the industry, because essentially I'm interviewing you. I'm going to ask you possibly a bunch of questions that you don't know. The way I like to hire is for, I'm not trying to prove you have check all the skills. I'm trying to prove you can think and you can figure out things. And if you're going to tell me, hey, I did this and this is how I address and why, and you can actually intelligent speak about a technology, you're proving to me that you can actually learn something you don't know, and learn to a depth that you can
Mhm.
explain it to someone else. And that's it. You got the job. Like that's ultimately what if anyone is trying to hire a junior, that is what you're trying to get.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thinking. It's how you think, as opposed to the technology itself. I mean, anyone can learn the technology, but it
Yeah.
is it's the fact of, how do you think? Are you willing to think out of the box? Are you willing to try different things? Or do you just want to, you try something once and you just give up?
Yeah, I confess, I did coding in university, my job, I'm a traditional sysadmin, so I move into DevOps. I'm not a coder naturally. I can code, and for example, when I do Terraform, like sometimes I'm doing things and I'm banging my head because or something. I could go and learn and read a lot about it, but I like to experiment. And
Yeah.
then I managed to do it after, like, oh, I did it! Wow, like it's such a feeling, And but again, like I'm a director. Like, should I be doing the technical? No, but it's fun. Like I be awake at 6 a.m. like launching environments on AWS and trying new modules and trying new things because I want the fun of the experience. I love it. Or doing certifications at 6 a.m. as well. Like it's
Is dedication.
yeah.
That's
No, it's not. It's fun. It's not dedication because like I have long days. Like the higher this, I think the higher you go, the longer the hours in
Yeah.
your in career, and you have to find ways to continue to learn, and that's how I learn. Like I sometimes I sleep late, so I'll be like at 1 a.m. like doing doing some learning for myself just for fun, like because I'm curious about something.
Well, I'm blessed to be able to learn on the job. Past couple of weeks has been all about Kubernetes, and you know how difficult that can get. And
Oh yes.
there, there are some times where I was just racking my brain. I'm like, why doesn't this work?
Yes, yes.
Uh, but
It's so interesting. Yeah.
once you crack that nut, oh man, it feels so good to
Yeah.
have that learning experience, and then you can actually talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
people write blog posts, other people talk about it in forums. It's a great experience all around.
I recently had one of those. I was learning GitLab and I was trying to launch GitLab as spot instances on AWS through a Terraform module. I found a Terraform module and I'm like trying to learn what that is. And like it took me 2 or 3 weekends because it's my weekend like project. And third weekend goes in, it's like 9 p.m. My wife and the kids are in bed. I was like, yes, I did it. Like I got spotted.
Uh,
Too
yeah,
funny.
Jacob, I feel the Terraform pain.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel the Terraform pain, Jacob. It's a monster, but you
It's a
eventually,
useful tool.
yeah, definitely a useful tool. So, what other learnings, Augusto, assisted you to be better at your job, other than certifications, outside of certifications?
I think in the last, like, as you become more of a leader and people's manager, and as you become a people's manager, so you're managing managers.
Oh,
Um, a big aspect of learning is people and all sorts of concepts of what's how you speak, what you say, how, like, not making assumptions about people. Like, even if I've had many experiences, I tell this story. Like I used to be, when I very first became a people manager, I was
mm,
terrible, very, very bad. And so bad that in fact I had to go apologize to them after a few years, because once I got to know how to be a manager, I literally had to go. I was like, hey, I don't think I was a very good manager. I'm very sorry.
by the way,
By the way, yes. And I think there's a couple of things. One, I think, is being married for 20 years and having kids and having been a manager a while teaches like very basic concepts about being kind and putting yourself in the other person's shoes,
empathy, yeah.
empathy, and I think, like, you need to kind of, and as the bigger the team comes, it becomes harder being in the moment, addressing the, like, what is this person trying to get, because everyone has different things. And also being empathetic to, maybe you're having an off day, maybe you don't want, this is not what you want to do, and trying to get, so as a manager, you want to get the best out of everyone. You want the people to come and do their best self. So that's the kind of learning you have, the human aspect of learning. And so
Mhm.
it depends where you, the day I'm in. I may be wanting to learn more about the human aspects, less about technical, and then the other day I'm learning technical. So my job is fun because of the yo-yo learning. I'm always learning. When I say I'm always learning, I'm not necessarily learning about uh, like technology. I could be learning how to do a PowerPoint or a video or whatever it is. It's always a learning, or trying to understand the business aspects of something. Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, I want to know a little bit more about how because you've been in several bigger corporations, and you've been at a leadership position. Um, how do you go about building these high performing teams? Because everywhere that you've gone, you've been very successful. People love working for you, and you are highly respected in the industry. So tell us a little bit more about how you build those teams to make them as high performing as they are.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I think a big aspect of high performance teams is it is an environment that allows people to learn. As in, you in when I first started building teams, I would try to hire the most senior people I could and stack up the team with senior people. As a result, you know, people, there were more in competition than, so you need to find what the people you hire need and try to give it to them. Sometimes it's staffing, juniors, intermediates, and seniors, so the seniors find reward in teaching the juniors, and the juniors find reward in learning more and grow their career. So that's a huge important aspect of a high performing team, that they actually like that people feel rewarded with their work. They want to come to work every day. So you have to have an environment that work is not only challenging, but like you have good quality of life in the work. So that's one thing. The other side is, like, I don't know everything, so it's a team sport. So
And
like
it
even like one thing that worked really well at Indigo and Show Me, and like, have people like the team, if you can, you already have some members of the team, they're participating in the hiring, that you actually allow them to make decisions
Mhm.
into the hiring. And and also allow space for mistakes, and not like I've been proven wrong, where I've had my team interview and say, well, we want to hire this person, and it's ultimately my decision. I'm like, yeah, wow, I don't know that this person is going to work. And essentially giving them the benefit of that, hiring the person, and this person being an amazing individual that really kills at everything, and then forcing a hire that the team didn't want, and actually failing, like that person didn't work out. So high performing individuals goes back, I think ultimately go back to trust. Like, it has to be an environment that trust exists, that there's open communication, that you explain things in a way that people can make decisions. And it goes back to how why I do well in companies. I do well in companies that people trust me, give me the space to be independent and operate in my own ways, and if I fail, they have my back. And so high performance teams comes back to a learning way, a trusting way, and the rest kind of figures itself out. I mean, the only thing I would last say is that there's also be an environment that you actually call out for is wrong, and make people accountable. So that would probably be back like there's accountability as well as being wrapped. So if we screw up, if I screw up, I'm the, like, part of my example, I went back and asked, apologized to my first team's direct reports, is because I felt I'm accountable for my decision. So I think there's a book, Extreme Ownership. You
Yes.
probably read it. Yeah,
Yes.
and I love that book because the book essentially says, as the boss, the buck stops with you. You are accountable.
Yeah.
So, like, I maintain accountability. If it was my fault because I either didn't give you enough information or it was my fault, I screwed up, then you say it. Hey, I apologize. It's my fault. Let's figure this out and move on. And that act of brings high performing teams, because people know if the boss has the guts to come and apologize and make himself vulnerable, then I can do it. I can try things that I would not otherwise, because I know that Augusto has my back. So, you know,
And you know what's interesting is everything that you've touched on is the fundamentals of DevOps.
yeah, yeah.
And
You and I know this very well because
yeah,
we pitched that. Yeah.
yeah, and I know that you are a big proponent of DevOps. You're part of the DevOps community here in Toronto, and you really walk the walk when it comes to DevOps. You know, a lot of people talk about it being the tools. Yeah, the tools are great, but the tools are just enablers. We have to go in with that mindset and the trust that you talk about and the accountability, things like that. That moves mountains over just the tools.
Yeah, for sure. Don't get like I think Jacob Luna is asking what tools should you be familiar, and I'll answer that. I think that there are core tools that you should know, and it is almost not about the tool, it's about how and why you're using the tools to do. You need to understand, like, for example, I'm going to create a CI/CD pipeline, what stages it is, how do you test it, how could you do security in the CI/CD, how do you do a Terraform or whatever pipeline you want. Fine, amazing. You could do Jenkins. You could, if you know Jenkins or you know Circle CI or you know whatever ABC, you probably can learn quickly DEF. Pick one that is the popular tool, learn it, but try to understand why you adding this step here. Don't just do the step because somebody told you, hey, do this step, and you don't know why. That's part of being a lifelong learner, is that you want to know your why. Why is this here? If you don't know why that is there, probably you shouldn't put it there.
If you're asking the question why, just don't do it. Or
Yeah. Well, no, find out why. That would be my thing. And I'm also telling you the stuff I always get in trouble because I like to know why I do things. If you're not telling me why, I'm probably going to be that guy in the army that gets kicked out because or beat up by the sergeant because I don't know why.
Yeah, it's definitely always a great thing to go into any environment, specifically technical, to ask the why. Like, why are you doing this? Is there, because there may be a better way to do it, or there may be a simpler way to do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes the tools are not as necessary as the why.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you see as technologists, maybe you will do what you're being asked as, but maybe you could do better, cheaper, faster if you did something that actually empowers the business. Because the problem with the technology world nowadays is that we're just doing for the technology, often in large enterprises, about control and maintaining the budgets and maintaining, there's this political status sometimes even of the management, like, having this highly paid job, like I'm providing for my families. knowing the why allows you to deliver on what is the goal here. The goal here is to deliver a business value. If
Yes.
we're not delivering business value, no point to it.
Well said, Augusto. Well said. Um, what does the future look like for Augusto?
It's so interesting. Like I don't know. I've been at this 20 years, and I used to do this for, let me get the highest job I can do, and try to scale the corporate ladder highest. I think I just want to help people. Like I don't. I think at this point, I know I'm getting well paid because I'm lucky to be in an industry that pays well. Money is a driver, not negating that, but I want interesting stuff. I want challenges. I want to continues to learn. As long as my future is about learning, I'm golden. The rest, I feel like it kind of just positions itself right after. You are a lifelong learner. You get money and you get satisfaction, personal satisfaction, and that's really it. Like that's the future for me. Like I work for a consulting company, Slalom Build, for 2 years now, and they truly give me that like ability to continue to learn many aspects of what is and evolve as a person, and I continue I continue to do that. So that's really the future. Like I want to learn everything and everything as a like technology, people, business, like hopefully I like run aspects of businesses that I never got to do before. That's really what I love. I'm a true my in my DNA truly. I think when my father and mom had me, they said, here's this DNA. You are a lifelong learner. Go figure out. and that is what I love.
Yeah, not a lot of people come from that mindset, and you can actually develop that mindset if you choose. I only started to do it because of certifications, right? I was like, oh, if I get this certification, then I can get a better job. Oh, wait a second, if I get 3 certifications, I can get an even better job. But what I was really doing is I actually tricked myself into being a lifelong learner because I got addicted. I didn't necessarily get addicted to the certifications, but I got addicted to the learning. And
That's
you know
amazing.
that's what drives me every day is to see people learning from my learnings. And so the more I can learn, the more I can share, the more other people can learn, and the more they can share. And
Yeah.
eventually, it makes this world a better place, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing because even the act of learning how to teach better, it's an amazing feeling. Oh, I see this module I built in this way seems to get better traction. Okay, awesome. There's something there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so if you could offer one piece of advice to others who are striving to get into the industry, or they're already in the industry and they're trying to get a better role, what would that be?
I'll say show curiosity. Show curiosity in your daily lives. You know, in a nice way, show, ask why, show learning. That itself I find to be really truly breaking into your next role. And I think there's something to be said about resilience, like receiving no's and taking the no as okay, I receive a no. What is it that I can learn from this?
Mhm.
And what am I missing? And approaching everything from a positivity aspect, and truly like people, there are many kinds of people. Sometimes people be mean to you, sometimes they'll be kind to you. If you sometimes it is nothing about you, and if you embrace the curiosity and a positivity in your life, you essentially like are 60% where you need to be. The rest will just easily align just because you're curious and a positive person.
Amazing. That's some great advice, Augusto. Great advice. I'm always asking the why, and it really gets me to a point where uh, where I start to figure out stuff on my own, and it also drives those people around me to ask the why.
Yeah, yeah. It's a amazing feeling. Like I have two kids, a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy, and they're very different personalities. And one thing my wife and I always said as they went through their challenges in life, what did you try? What, like, you're having, what did you do? Okay, tell me. Okay, go do that. Try that. Before, like, I put my helicopter parent hat and like go uh like bang on doors. Like I need to see them fail so they can learn a lesson. I need to see them trying and being curious. You know, the reality is curiosity is a double sworded thing, because sometimes people don't want you to be curious and don't want you to be that, and it bites you a little bit back. But you know, maybe that's not the right place for you to be if you're not being allowed that space. So it also tells you, okay, that, you know, they don't want us me to ask the why, they don't want me to understand the why, so let me find a place that I can be have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, there are roles out there and organizations out there where they don't want you to ask the why. They want you to just do. And,
Yep.
you end up becoming a robot. Some people like that, but I mean, ultimately, if you want to grow in your career, you have to ask the questions. And like you were saying earlier, deliver business value. But if you're not asking why, then you can't deliver business value because you don't know what they
Yeah.
want.
Well, it depends where you will reward yourself. Like, say, for example, I'm a painter and I'm an artist, and that's the thing that really boils my blood, and like I love it. And you're doing a tech job because that's what pays you. Maybe that doesn't draw, and maybe you have a 9 to 5 job, and that's fine, because then you go and maybe you're doing something you love.
Mhm.
Uh, I always say this, you know, do the things you love, find ways to interject what your career is with the things you love, which is a very North American thing. In Europe, like most of the world is not like that. I truly do what I love. Like you know, I started at like I got my first computer in Africa at 10, and I started working at 15, and so not a lot of people get that benefit. I was privileged in many ways. I continue to be privileged, and it, I do what I love. You know, you need to find what you love and try to figure out a way to make money out of it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's very inspiring, and something that I try to follow as well, and try to preach to my kids, and hoping that they follow the path of their passion, because
Yeah.
ultimately, when when your kids are following in those footsteps, then they will pass on that knowledge to whoever they meet, whether it be their kids, their life partners, and the people that they work with.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
um, I do want to open up the floor to any more questions. If anyone has any, feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll be sure to get around to it. In the meantime, Augusto, what is the
Let,
what?
I was going to answer the core tools. I think in terms of DevSecOps tools, you should be learning probably, you know, Jenkins, Terraform, um, Ansible, very core tools that you should be learning at the moment. GitHub Actions or some kind of YAML-based CI/CD are also important. Um, know Git really well. Like if you know those three, fours, you probably can. And Kubernetes, like container ecosystem, Docker. You know how to build a Docker container, how to build Kubernetes. That is, but it is almost like I feel like Kubernetes is a second stage of knowledge to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jacob is one of my students, and he passed his certification. And Jacob, he actually passed the certification before I even finished my course. So kudos to him for doing that. Jacob, if you go back to, I've just released some lessons on Kubernetes. You can see the full walkthrough. I cover all the aspects, and there's a really cool lab at the end called Box of Bow Ties. I'm so proud of it. I don't know why. I thought it was something fun to do, and I ended up with a box of bow ties in the end.
Amazing. I was going to give a shout out to Jillian. She said she's joining from Cape Town, South Africa, which is pretty close to my home country, Angola. So, hi.
Hello, Jillian.
How do you achieve the call? So let me look. I love my chosen path, but never receive a written brief from a client. How do you achieve the goal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if you can't if you're not getting feedback from a client on what you do, you need to find other ways to get that feedback, or maybe you need to prompt and ask directly. I find that if you are, like, for example, when I started my consulting thing, I would often, before I go into the meeting, I would ask someone in the meeting, hey, can you watch out and give me feedback at the end, how I did it and how I could improve? So I put the person at ease. In the same way, if you're going to tell someone something that is not so positive, maybe you should tell, hey, I'm going to tell you something that may not be okay or sound positive. I want to, you're giving that person the chance to prepare. The same way you need feedback, you ask feedback precisely before you need the feedback. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Jillian. And thank you for joining from Cape Town. That's amazing. I've never had anyone come to the show from Cape Town, so even as far as South Africa. So so I appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, now if there aren't any more questions, I would I'll let Augusto get back to what you were doing, which is leading people in the best possible way. And thank you, Renan, for joining. Renan is part of Augusto's team, so he can probably vouch for everything that he has just said, as I can. But yes, anyways, thank you, Augusto, for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. You've given us so much to think about, and I really want to give you kudos to the way you lead. I think a lot of leaders should take a page out of your book and be a lifelong learner and practice what they preach, and take a step forward and do what's right for yourself, that shows others that they can do the same thing. So
Thank you.
Thank you again for everyone for tuning in. I appreciate you. Keep on striving, keep on learning, and we'll see you same time next week. Have a great day.
Thank you.